Alrighty, so we are making our pinch pot ice cream bowls today. Once again, there's your example, yes, today. And so we always start with doing what to our clay? Wedging our clay. Very good. How much clay are we using? 0.6 or 6/10 of a pound of clay. Alright, so my clay was pre-wedged. So we don't have to do too much. Now what I'm going to do, okay guys, I'm sorry, I should not hear any talking right now at all. Okay, what you want to do is you're going to use 2/3 of your clay to make the bowl and about 1/3 of it to make the bottom and the coil. So all I'm going to do with my clay is I'm going to pull off a piece there that's about 2/3, okay, about like that. Okay, so I'm going to set that one aside and I'm going to make my bowl part out of this piece right here. Okay, so once you wedge it, and remember when you wedge it, you're not making it into a pancake, you're making it into kind of this rounded shape. It's going to look like that, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to work this into basically a ball shape. Okay, so I just take my hand, and you can actually tap it on your table if you want. My table is kind of noisy, so I'll just use my hand, and you're just working it into a ball. I'll usually tap it with my hand like this to get it in that general shape. Okay, once you have a ball, the next step is to punch a hole in it with your thumb. Now, if you make a hole that's lopsided, your pot will be lopsided. If you make a hole in the center, there's a high chance your pot will be centered. Okay. Now, keep in mind too, these are pinch pots. Pinch pots are not perfectly symmetrical. You don't have to worry about making a pot that is perfectly symmetrical, nice even rim. These are made to be a little, what would the word be? Just asymmetrical, a little bit out of balance, and that's okay. So I've made a hole in the middle. You can see it's pretty centered there. And now what's going to happen is this is the top of my pot. This is the bottom of my pot. Now I'm going to begin pinching the clay. So what I do is I always pinch. So I'm going to turn it upside down. So here's the bottom here. So my thumb is inside, and I'm pinching my thumb and fingers together like this. All right. So I'm going to just turn it and pinch it and turn and pinch it. This isn't going to take you 10 pinches or probably even 50 or 100 pinches. You're going to pinch it several hundred times before you're done. Don't try to get it all done just instantaneously. The more you do of these, the better you get at it, the quicker you can go. Okay, but I'm pinching the clay, like I said, between my thumb and my fingers, and as I pinch it, it squishes the clay and it becomes wider. You can see how that's opening up. Okay, you can also use two hands once you kind of get it open up a little bit and work on it. But the idea is try not to just tear the clay, try not to just have it all done instantaneously. Take your time and do a nice job on it. If you get cracks, try to seal those cracks up so they don't get worse. Okay, so I'll speed up a little bit here. Now, the biggest thing with this pot is the bottom shouldn't be super thick. Okay? The bottom should be as thick as the rest of it. And the rim should not be super thin. And those are the two things I see students do when they make pinch pots for the first few times, is they make the rim really skinny because they keep pinching on the rim. Don't do that. Try to avoid the rim till the end if possible. Okay, so a lot of times when I'm pinching, I'll close my eyes and I'll just feel with my fingers, if there's a thin spot, I don't pinch anymore. If it's a thick spot, I pinch a little bit more. Okay, because this really becomes as much about the feel as it is about the actual looks of it. Okay, and the feeling is what really makes it look right. Okay, so now I've got my nice little ice cream bowl right there. It looks pretty good. I am now going to take the rim, and the rim isn't thin. I'm going to bend the rim downward because it's going to have a flat rim that's kind of like this here. See how that's flattened out? Okay, but you don't want it super skinny. So I'm going to take my pot, and I'm simply going to take my fingers and thumb and kind of bend like this outward. So I'm going to bend like this. I'm not pinching the clay, I'm just bending it. And just the very edge of it. I'm creating a rim that sticks out a little bit. Okay, so that sticks out a little bit there. I can actually lay it upside down then and take my thumb or one of my fingers and flatten it a little bit more if I want it to be a little bit flatter. Okay, looks like a turtle shell. And so there's my ice cream bowl. So that took about 4 minutes to make. Okay, it's going to take you much longer because you haven't done them before. If I mess up and I don't like it, what can I do? I can redo it. So I want to spritz it with water real good. I want to re-wedge the clay and then start over again. I used to tell my students, don't be afraid to make 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 before you get one that you like. But this is a lot smaller piece of clay, so most of you will make it on the first or second try. Now I'm going to make the bottom. Can you tell what the bottom of my ice cream bowl is? It's a smaller pinch pot. That's exactly what it is. Okay, and I'm also going to make a coil, like that little rounded piece there. It's a little hard to see. So I'm going to take my clay, I'm going to pull off a little piece for the coil. I don't need a lot. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to just, it's already wedged, but I'm going to wedge it, kind of get it back into that nice lumpy roundish shape. Okay, so now I'm just going to tap it in my hands. Oh, something else I didn't show you. The spray bottle. So if your clay, when you're working on it, gets dry, just kind of spritz it like that, and it'll re-moisten it up a little bit. You don't want it to get really cracked on the outside, and so that's something you can do to kind of help with that. So I have a ball of clay. What do I do next? Stick my hole. Yeah, I've already wedged it, so stick my thumb in it to make a hole. The hole should be nice and centered. This is a small piece. Does that look kind of like one of the mushroom guys from Mario? All right, so turn and pinch, turn and pinch, turn and pinch. Don't make the bottom too thin because it'll not hold the weight of your pot. So, you know, it should be about as thick as your pot unless you made your pot really thin. Okay, so I'm pinching this one, and this goes really quick. It's a small piece. It's pretty easy to do. Once again, make sure it's not too thick, you know, on the bottom portion, and definitely don't make this rim too thin because then it won't support your pot correctly. I'd never really told students this before, but I think a good thing to say is what I said earlier. Don't even pinch the rim until you get to the very end. Okay, I think that would help. All right, so I'm going to just finish this up here. There's my pinch pot for the base. So what's going to happen is my ice cream bowl is going to go on top of that like this, okay, or from an angle. It's going to look like that. So what do I need to do to attach them together? Score and slip, you got it. So I'm going to borrow some tools and some slip from table 1. Turn that together if you do. Okay, so I would use this little stick called the stylist, and I would, of course, this is for putting the slip on there. So I'm going to score these. I'm going to score right here, right along here, and then the slip I'm going to put on there, and use enough slip. It's going to ooze out, and then the coil is going to cover up that ooze, and it'll actually help keep the coil attached. So if I just stick my pot on like this now, the top, and I walk away, as soon as that dries, it's probably going to fall off. Yeah, we really want to work it into place. So what I'm going to do, it's hard to show this one. Basically, I just want to work these two together real well. Just really kind of attach them. Since I'm doing the coil, I don't need to, but I could take a tool and I could work these two pieces like this in together. I also want, when I'm done, to set it up right to make sure it's level because, you know, I don't want my ice cream bowl leaning over. If it's not perfectly level, it's okay. Mine's a little lopsided now. So work it in, and now I'm ready to make my coil. Now, someone told me the coils are easier to roll on the table, so feel free to roll it out on the table. How many of you, when you were little, had Play-Doh and you made a worm or a snake? You say, hey, Mom, look, I made a snake, a worm. Yeah, a lot of you. Me too. So just basically pretend you're using Play-Doh and roll this out like a little snake or a little worm. Don't put a mouth on it, though. And make sure it's long enough to go all the way around your piece. Okay, so there's my coil. Now I'm going to take this here, and I have leftover slip in there, so I don't need any more slip. I'm going to take this. Oh yeah, one more thing. These will crack real easily, so make sure you keep it moist. If it dries out at all, it's not a good thing. Make sure it's nice and moist when you put it on there. And that moisture actually acts as slip also, because remember, slip is just wet clay. So put your coil on there. On the back side where it comes together, it's almost just the right size. If you have any extra, just pinch that off. And just really work your coil in. Leave it so it looks like a coil, but really work it onto the piece pretty good. Okay, so I have my coil and my pot. Okay, it's almost finished. A couple more things I need to do. I'm going to add some texture or design, and then I'm going to put my initials and period number. Okay, up here I have a cup with some pencils in it. These work great for texture. You can use other tools. The popsicle sticks, things in your cup work good, but this is a real easy one. Take the eraser. Support this from underneath with your finger so you don't bend it, and make little marks like circles. Well, they are circles. Is that showing up in the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'll go fast here. It's really important you support it from underneath. Now, like this one didn't quite go deep enough there, so I just support it again and I can go back over it. Okay, that's a nice texture that looks cool. One of the nice things with texture, when you glaze these, and we're going to glaze them, the glaze gets in the grooves and usually looks different than it does on the rest of the surface. So it just adds a nice variance to it. Also along the bottom, it's nice to add texture here. Let me see if I can do this without bending my piece. So just, you can do the same design, always looks nice to do the same design, or you can create something different there. I'm going to finish that part later. You don't have to watch me do the rest of that. And then the very last step, turn it upside down, and inside of it, put your initials and period number. And the more important thing of that is the period number, because if I can see a 3 on it, I'll get it back to your class. Okay, but also put the initials too. So here's a 3 for period 3. Now, remember, these little chunks become sharp, so kind of smooth all those out when you're done. And that is how you make the ice cream bowl. So that was 11 minutes and 17 seconds.